on Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
You're listening to The Jan Price Show, and my guest today is writer-director Meredith Danluck, and we're going to be talking about her brand new movie, State Like Sleep. Welcome to the show, Meredith.
Thank you, Jan. So happy to be here.
It's great to have you on the show. Tell me a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the title, State Like Sleep. How did the title come about? Because it's such an unusual title.
Yeah. My mom was in the hospital a few years back, and the doctor, the anesthesiologist, referred to the anesthesia as her going into, English was his second language, and he referred to the anesthesia as being a state-like sleep. And I think that, colloquially, we would refer to it as a sleep-like state, but state-like sleep just stuck with me and really kind of tonally really described the state of kind of suspended animation of grief itself, that kind of sleepwalking through life, suspended in that way. So it just stuck with me, and it was the name of the script from day one, and it just felt really, really true.
And you, let's if you wouldn't mind, please tell the listeners a little bit about the plot of the film without giving away too much.
Yeah. Well, it's a story about a woman named Catherine, who's played by Catherine Waterston, and she is the widow of a Belgian film actor who, a year prior to when the movie takes place, had committed suicide, and she gets pulled back into Brussels when her mother goes back to pack up their mutual apartment, and falls ill. And during that time, she's packing up the apartment. She kind of goes down this rabbit hole, discovering a secret life that he had, and she looks into what he did the last couple of days, goes into his cell phone, looks through his things, and finds this kind of dubious cast of characters, and builds a case that suggests not suicide, but something a little more nefarious. And that's the setup, but it's really what she's really doing is creating a narrative of his death that is somewhat easier to cope with than the narrative of suicide. I mean, suicide is so inexplicable, and it puts so many complicated emotions of guilt and blame and complicity on the loved ones that are left behind, that it's you would rather have something have happened to the person than to have had them take their own life. So that's really what the story is about.
But there's such a mystery in the story, because you really don't know, was he murdered or did he really commit suicide? And you kind of leave it open for interpretation, which I like. I like the way that you did that. You were selected by the Sundance Writers Lab for this particular film. So talk a little bit about that experience of working with Sundance, because that's quite a coup to be chosen by Sundance for anything.
Yeah, it really, really is. I applied to the Sundance Writers Lab, and it was like getting into college. There was, I think, 3 or 4 different levels to get through, and kind of the culling process that they do for their admissions. And at every stage of the way, I felt like, well, you know what, this means something. Even if I don't make it to the next one, it means so much that they think the script is good enough. Like that every step of the way, I got this boost of confidence. And I think especially writing your first screenplay, you just don't know if is this any good? This kind of idea of like, am I doing this the right way? And so getting that validation at that early stage of the process is really really thrilling. It gives you a new kind of motivation, a new blast of energy. So that was really incredible. And then when I finally got the call that I had been accepted, it was like a kind of a chain of dominoes that one thing led to another, and it really changed my life. It changed my life. It changed the course of the movie. It also changed my my understanding of the screenwriting process and the level of commitment that you really need to dive deeper into the initial ideas. I have a lot of friends that are screenwriters, and we always joke that, like, when you have your first draft and you type the words "the end" on the page, you're as far from the end as you were when you started.
Yes, I can imagine.
So, yeah, just because it's such a the writing is in the rewriting, and I think that going to the lab and having these incredible advisors like Erin Cressida Wilson or Joan Tewksbury, who really, really pushed the ideas in the script and really pushed me to dig deeper, that changed my relationship with creativity altogether.
How long was the process of writing the screenplay, and also did the script change a lot from when you first wrote it, and then having gone through the Sundance Writers Lab, had it? I mean, obviously you know it improved, but did it change the initial storyline at all?
Yeah, there was always the initial storyline, and the emotional arc was always the same for Catherine's character, but the script changed tremendously. I mean, it went from these kinds of almost scattered ideas into a real laser focus, and it started kind of telling me what it needed, and every day when I would sit down to write, I had a real it was almost like I just had a real direction with it, because it was changing, and it was telling me how it needed to change. So yeah, it changed tremendously from the first draft to what was the ultimate production draft. And
how many years did it go through that process?
My very first draft was in 2012, and we shot it in 2016. So that's, and I think that probably the draft that we had gotten to in 2015 was very, very similar to the draft that we shot. Give or take a few, fixes here and there. But yeah, I would say that. I would say a steady, rigorous 3 years.
Wow, just intensely working on this script.
Yeah.
When you decided to direct it, did you do rewrites as you were filming it, or did the script stay pretty much as it was and you didn't change anything?
Yeah, during production, we didn't do any revisions. It felt really good, and I didn't have any. Other than things that to reflect the circumstances of the location. Like going upstairs, going downstairs, really, I would make little changes to the script to reflect our actual location, so it would just be a little more streamlined on the page for the actors and for crew once we got on set, but yeah, it didn't really change other than that.
That's great. Then you had a really good tight script. You have attracted, though, an amazing cast. The lead role of Catherine is played by Katherine Waterston. You've got Michael Shannon, who is it's a very different role from Michael Shannon, and Luke Evans, who I just absolutely adore. So tell us how you attracted this amazing cast.
Oh gosh, I think it was a combination of luck. I think that I think that for an actor, they really need to be a script needs to come to them at the right time and the right place in their life. And I think that for each of them, they saw something interesting in the character, and that they responded to and wanted to dive into. And we, I met Catherine very, very early on in the process. She was actually the second person ever to read the script, like before Sundance or anything. And she had just been cast by Paul Thomas Anderson in Inherent Vice. And so she wasn't really well known at that point. This is before Fantastic Beasts and Alien and Inherent Vice. So we had started our rapport way back then. And then with Michael Shannon, that was a bit different. I had seen him on a talk show, and he was very charming, very handsome, very unlike the characters that he would typically play. And I remember talking to my casting agent, Mark Bennett, about Michael Shannon for the role, and he thought it was he was really excited about that idea. And luckily we had the support of Michael Shannon's agent, Jack Wiggum, and then luckily, there's a lot of barriers to entry to get to a level of cast like that. And I got lucky with Catherine, and then with Mike, his team was supportive enough to send him the script, and then once both of them were officially signed on, then it's a lot easier to attract the supporting cast like Luke or McKeel, because you have such incredible talent carrying the movie.
And Luke Evans was so completely different in this role. So talk about, because he changed his hair color. So let's talk about that. How he transformed himself into this character.
Oh, absolutely. Luke is one of the most wonderful people I have ever met. When he wasn't shooting, on his days off from shooting in Toronto, he would go to the Children's Hospital and play songs for them.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that's
you just can't get a better guy. So Luke called me probably a week before he was supposed to show up on set, and he was like, "I have this idea. I'm gonna bleach my hair for the character. I think he would want to do that." And I thought that was an amazing idea. And he wanted to do that because here was this character that was this kind of this peacock of like nightlife, and this king in his own little underground world, and Luke thought it would be something that he would want to stick out against these dark interior backgrounds and be really recognizable from afar and have a kind of glow to him, and that kind of almost like a club kid, bleach blonde hair. And I thought, like, that was so smart. That was such a cool way of externalizing character, and it was one of those things that, like, from that point on, I was just like, oh, Luke is he makes great decisions, and he thinks a lot about a real depth of the character, and I loved him. I loved working with him.
Oh yeah, I love him too. I love watching him. Actually, I had a discussion with a friend of mine who we thought the next James Bond should be. We kind of got in an argument because I think it should be Idris Elba, but he said, I won't say what he said. And I love Idris Elba, and I think we're ready for a black James Bond. But his I said, so who do you think? And he's English, my friend's English. And I said, so who do you think? And he said, Luke Evans. And I said, yeah, that's a really good choice too.
Oh yeah, he would nail it. Totally.
He would be great. So it would be good. Yeah, he just thought Idris Elba, by the time they were to film the next one after this one, that he might be too old for the part. And I said, no, that's age discrimination.
Also, Daniel Craig's no spring chicken.
No, he's not. He's not. I said, I think, so, but anyhow, it's interesting. Hey, if you are just joining us and just tuning in, you are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies. And my guest today is writer-director Meredith Danluck, and we're talking about her new movie, State Like Sleep. You've premiered this movie, State Like Sleep, at the Tribeca Film Festival this past spring. Now, that's, again, quite an honor to be accepted at that film festival. What was that like, and what was the process like for you to have your film be shown there?
Oh, it was really amazing. Tribeca is such a great festival because the audiences are New Yorkers,
yes,
primarily.
Yes.
So you have these very, very smart, very discerning crowds, and always the questions in the Q&As are really intelligent, and you're in New York City, so you go to Sundance and it's like the whole town gets taken over by Sundance, and I love Sundance. It's an incredible festival. New York, you're in New York, and it's such a big city that you're still in New York. You still it doesn't feel like wherever you go you're going to see the same people. And I love that. I love De Niro's founding of that festival. Having it be this kind of real actors festival is really lovely. But I think that was the first place. A festival premiere is so different because it's the first place you've shown the movie in a crowd. So for me, that was totally thrilling and terrifying at the same time because you have no idea what people are going to think of it. Here's something that you've worked on for years and years, and this is, are people going to laugh? Are people going to cry? Like, will people love it as much as I love it? And being in the audience, we were in a big theater, and here I felt the energy of the crowd on this emotional roller coaster. And it was such a deep honor and thrill. And it was almost like I was having an out of body experience, like watching myself watch my movie with other people.
Yes.
But it was really awesome. It was, and the people from the festival were so lovely. So I had a great time.
Oh, that's good. And the response obviously was very good to the film.
Yeah.
It's great. That's great. I'm from New York, so I miss the New Yorker New Yorkers in the way that we like to watch movies there. It's a little different than many other places too. See, you also have worked though with some really. You've worked with. You've done multi-screen tours, visuals for Jay-Z, Beyonce, and John Legend. Can we talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah,
because that's rather fascinating.
Yeah,
so what's it like working with the B and the Z?
Well, I actually never worked directly with Jay-Z. Beyonce, on the other hand, is very hands-on with her creative team. So that was pretty exciting. I mean, not directly, not like all the time, but her creative team, they've been working together for a really long time, and I felt extremely privileged to kind of come in and do some work with them because they were so tight knit. And but she's a powerhouse. She's everything that you would imagine. She's incredibly disciplined and generous, and I think that's they're also they're actually quite frugal in the way that they cover a lot of ground with very little. But yeah, I think that she's such an incredible role model and such a force of nature. I am so proud to have worked a little bit with her.
Yes, I can imagine. I mean, that's the impression we all get too. John Legend's one of my favorites though. So what was it like working with him?
That was really amazing. So that I actually, did the entire All of Me tour, and that came together. I'd been working a bit with Benjamin Millepied, the dancer, who has a production company. So that project came through Benjamin, and it was just like a very organic process because John's music is so emotional. And so, and John had some images that he had sent through that were inspiring, that inspired him for the album, All of Me. And, so I just kind of riffed on those and he either he vibed off some and not on others. And we just kind of, through the process of elimination, developed the tour, and it was a different tour for him because he hadn't at that point had so many kind of bells and whistles on the tour. He had been typically going, just him and a piano. So this was a very different tour, and it was so great because I guess in the New York show, his wife Chrissy Teigen was saying it was the best tour that he had done, and she was so it's really, it's exciting to be a part of something that's so big and that touches so many people that that you have a little part of. It's obviously it's his show, it's his music, and whatever, you try to build a world that is supportive of someone else's creative vision, and I find working with other artists and really being inspired by other artists is such a cool process for me, So I feel very lucky to have worked with both of them.
Yes, I can imagine that would be just an amazing experience. Where can people see State Like Sleep?
Well, it's available on demand on iTunes, and as of January 4th in theaters.
Fabulous. Now, did you premiere with this movie at Sundance too? Did it show there?
No, we premiered at Tribeca, which takes place in April of every year. March, April every year, and Sundance is a bit earlier. So we didn't quite make it in time for Sundance.
That's too bad.
But I did develop it with the feature film program at Sundance. But so it's still part of the project in a very deep way.
And what are you working on now, Meredith?
I actually just finished a feature script that I'm very excited about, and am developing a TV series. So staying pretty busy, writing a lot, and hoping that the next feature comes together easier than State Like Sleep.
Well, hopefully it will. After you've been through the process, it should get easier.
Yeah.
Well, Meredith, thank you so much for being on the show, and I wish you much luck with State Like Sleep. And I know it's a wonderful movie, beautifully shot, love the score, so I highly recommend going to see State Like Sleep. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Go to the Jan Price Show on Facebook to learn more about upcoming shows. And while you're there, please like my page. And to listen to the Price Movie Minute movie reviews and to listen to archive shows that you may have missed, go to thejanpriceshow.com.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
The Ozio Theater in downtown Monterey is now open every day, showing independent and foreign films. The Ozio Theater has new concession offerings, including beer, wine, hard cider, and their homemade Lush Slush. You can now schedule private event screenings for community charity events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just a fun gathering of friends. For more information, visit the Ozio Theater online at oziotheater.com.